Hey, seasoners, welcome back to another episode of the Travel and Tourism Podcast, my first season. My guest today worked for Club Med from 2010 to 2017, and her first season was in Club Med Sandpiper as a dance captain slash choreographer. Before Club Med, she attended the University of Akron and studied dance and communication. She also worked at the Beverly Wilshire Four Seasons Hotel, famously seen in the excellent movie Pretty Woman, one of my favorite movies of all time. I don't care who knows. Aside from Sandpiper, she worked in the villages of Turks and Caicos, Bali, and Yabuli and Dongao in China, where she met her future husband. Her parents actually knew ex-chief of village Greg Snyder, and that is how she found out about Club Med. Please help me welcome, from Strong Island, Cara Giacalone. Hey, Cara, how are you?
I'm doing well, Greg. How are you doing?
Good. I'm so happy I pronounced your name correctly. I've been practicing it all day.
I can imagine. I always get asked, is it Cara, Cara?
Yeah,
whatever your accent is.
Did you have a nickname in Club Med, or did GMs just mispronounce your first name all day long?
I just let them say whatever came out of their mouths at that point.
Okay. At one point, you have to give up, right?
Yes.
All right. So thank you for joining us here and sharing your story.
Yes, thank you for having me. I've listened to your podcast before, and when you reached out, I was super excited to be on it.
I do lurk on Facebook a lot, so thank you for answering, because there's a lot of people that don't know about the other inbox in Facebook Messenger. So there's about 100 invitations out to people who have no idea they've been invited. So I thank you for knowing where your other inbox in Facebook Messenger is.
My pleasure.
Okay, so Long Island, Strong Island, born and raised. I do have some questions about, because since I work for a university here in Montreal, you attended University of Akron and studied dance. So I'm all day long in a boring classroom, boring lecture. I assume that dance, like, do you just go to a class and then you're in a studio and and you have to dance? Is this what happens?
Yeah, so we have certain classes a day, whether it's ballet, modern, tap, jazz, choreography, dance history. When you're actually dancing, it's about an hour and a half long class. So it's
Really?
literally from the moment you wake up till nighttime, and then plus with rehearsals if you're doing a show.
And you do all those dances? You don't specialize?
No, well, if you have a specialty, whether it's modern or jazz, it's always required to take ballet because that's the main technique. So all dance majors have to take all courses.
Did you have a favorite when you were attending university, like a favorite style of dance?
Yes, mine was modern.
Modern. Okay. This is the one I never understood then, right? Like the one Sia's out in her music videos. Is that modern?
Yes.
Or is that interpretive? I can never.
Interpretive. It's pretty much the same thing, but yes, that's
But
the same
no, but
style.
because of Sia in those videos, I actually like it now. I like, modern dance now just because of her music and her videos. But in Club Med, whenever the choreographer tried it, I think they got mad at me because I always didn't understand what I was doing.
Yeah, it might have looked a little different.
Okay. All right. So then after university, now you go to LA, correct? To try to, was it trying to dance in like, I mean, how does it work? Are you trying to get into stadiums, like, or videos, like, or I'm just confused about how the whole thing works.
Yeah, so being born and raised in New York, I always wanted to stay in New York. And I had a dance teacher in high school who encouraged us to go away for school and you can always come back home. Little did I know at that time, I never ended up going back home till this day in New York. So after college in Ohio, I wanted to change of scenery. And I had a friend that lived in LA. He was in the music industry. I had gone to visit him and fell in love. And I said, this is where I need to be. And so I contacted some of my friends from college that were dancers as well. And we moved out there. I was there for about 4 years and went on various auditions from, as you said, videos or commercials or even cruise ships and working various jobs here and there to pay the bills and, the struggling artist lifestyle.
Which you did you'd worked the graveyard shift as a phone operator at the Beverly Wilshire, correct?
Yes, that's correct. The Pretty Woman Hotel. That was one of my various jobs. I was there for a short term. It was around 2008 when the economy crashed and they had to let people go in seniority. So I was last hired. I was first to go, which was very unfortunate. But it was a great period of time. I worked there and I was working in selling fitness equipment, working in chiropractors' offices, front desk manager, acupuncturist office. So working at the Pretty Woman Hotel was one of my favorite jobs for sure, even though it was the graveyard shift, working 10 p.m. to about 6 a.m.
I assume you could be online a lot.
Yes, let's just say I watched a lot of movies.
Okay, I'm glad you mentioned that because for people who know me and this podcast are going to groan and roll their eyes right now. Okay, so did you ever see the 2000 movie Center Stage, the movie about dance?
Of course, who
Okay,
hasn't?
so I had a choreographer friend in Cancun, and we love this movie. So, do you think
Mhm.
you don't have to say yes? Do you think that's one of the best dance movies of all time, or the best, or you wouldn't even rate it up there?
No, definitely not one of the best, but it
Not
was.
one of the best. Okay, this interview is over. Okay.
I'd say, let's say top
Well,
10 dance
okay, well
movies.
then, okay, what do you consider then, like top three? Like, what's your favorite then dance
I
movie?
mean, it's not a technical dance movie, but hands
Mm,
down, Footloose.
okay, okay,
I'm
careful
a
now.
Footloose fan.
The original or the remake with
Oh, the
Miles Teller?
original. Kevin
Okay,
Kevin
okay.
Bacon all the way.
Oh, okay. This interview can continue then. Okay, you said the right thing. If
I
you would
passed
have
the
said
test.
you would have said remake, I'm sorry, we would have had to reschedule. Okay. All right. All right. Now, so this is the whole weird thing. Your parents know Greg Snyder from Arizona, right?
Correct.
Okay. So give me in a nutshell how they met.
Yeah, when my parents retired, they moved out to Arizona and they were living in a 55 and older community. It's also known as an active adult resort lifestyle. And Greg Snyder was there. I don't know his technical title, whether social director or lifestyle and activities director. Sort of say he's like the chef de village of the community, comparing it to Club Med. So he was planning the events and the activities. And my parents had introduced me to him. He knew I was a dancer. And at the time, I was in Los Angeles for 4 years and I was ready to make my next move, whether it was going back to school to get my master's in choreography. And he was talking to me about Club Med, and I had never heard of Club Med. My family was very big on cruise ships growing up. So he was telling me, think of a cruise ship, but on land, same concept. I was like, all right, I'll look into it. So that's how I found out about it.
And when you applied, from the time you applied, how long was it that they called you for an interview?
It was actually a process. I applied online. It was in April 2010. And it was like a few days later, I did a phone interview. Hammer actually reached out to me saying they were having group auditions the next day. Can you make it? And I went to the audition and had another interview. And then I had not heard from them until months later in September, they had reached out to me. And then it was another interview and answering questions. I believe it was between me and a few other candidates that they were trying to decide between to go to Sandpiper Bay for their grand reopening.
Was
And
this interview, sorry, on telephone or in person?
that was on telephone. I had all of them were on the telephone except for the group interview where we also had one-on-one interviews at the time.
In California?
Yes, in Los Angeles. There were a bunch of people there and we had one-on-one interviews. I believe I was interviewing with Dodie Rubenstein. And when we had our group interviews, they split us up. And actually, there was an XGO there. I think I got a good lead on this. He said, we're going to do a dance to the song called Hands Up. Trust me, they're going to love it. We're like,
Oh, oh,
I was
oh
like,
boy.
I
Okay.
was like, all right, like, how hard could it be? So as soon as we got there, of course, everyone was smiling and laughing. So I'm sure that's, what sold them on hiring us in that group for sure.
Okay, so they took the dance with the, I guess, easiest choreography ever, right? And
hmm
okay. So were you applying to be choreographer or were you just you wanted to work anywhere?
No, I was applying for choreographer, and at the time they had advised me to apply for a few other positions, which were ended up being a receptionist and mini club because they were telling me it's such a cultural shock coming into Club Med as a choreographer that it would probably be easier for me to come in as a position for the first season and then be able to transfer to the choreographer position.
Well, yeah, because you had to teach bozos like me, the size 13 feet uncoordinated and who didn't want
Yeah.
to be at rehearsal. So yeah, that's a challenge in itself, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I was lucky enough, they contacted me for a choreographer's position. So I was stoked.
All right. So they send you to Sandpiper.
hmm
So this is 2010. So it's not like I'm asking your geo from the 70s. So everything must be vivid. fresh in your memory, right? So what do you remember about arriving that first day?
Well, I could tell you it wasn't the normal experience for Geo coming in because the village was closed. I came in a month before the grand opening to start working on the shows. So when I arrived, I just remember a lot of dirt, a lot of construction, seeing trucks, and I was thinking to myself, oh my gosh, is this place going to be ready in a month to open? And I slowly got to ease into the village life. So I had a cultural shock in that aspect of there was about maybe a handful of us on the resort that they had in. It was myself, maybe a few other GOs, and then a couple of managers. And we would have meetings and talk about what the new relaunching, the new vision of Sandpiper was going to be like. And I know they were working on the sports academy at the time, and they wanted to make it a more family friendly resort and focusing on the kids program at the time. So actually, my manager was the mini club manager and sports and events manager. So I was kind of split in many directions.
Can I ask a dumb question? Was it close for like a big renovation?
Yeah, yep. They had their grand reopening. I believe it was a $25 million renovation they had done. I don't know if they were closed for a year or it was 6 months. I don't remember. Yeah, they were. I got there in November and they were opening in December, right before Christmas.
And did you have to make your own shows, or were there shows already like in a kit, so to speak, ready for you?
No, no shows in a kit that were ready for me. The only thing that was ready is this program Rags. They were trying to launch and they wanted to roll it out to the other resorts, and Sandpiper was the first test run. Rags is plain, it's like a mascot costume. Think of Sesame Streets, like they have Sesame Street with beach resorts and they had Shrek with the Gaylord hotels. Rags were these five musical dogs and they're based a TV show based in Australia. Kevin Batt had discovered them and he wanted to bring them to Sandpiper. So I worked closely with the Rags team. They had their own choreographer that created a show. So she was teaching me the show and they wanted to do appearances throughout the day, whether, it was at like a pajama party or a garden party or doing a treasure hunt. So that was pretty, I would like to say that was my baby I was in Sandpiper for a year and a half. And that's how long it lasted. Unfortunately, it didn't take off and make it to the other resorts. It was only in Sandpiper Bay for a year and a half.
Okay, I'm on your Facebook right now and looking at the show, and so I see the rags. Now, in another context, these things could be frightening. But are these geos in there?
Yes,
Oh,
those are geos. So that was one
okay.
of the challenges is trying to get geos to get in those costumes. I
Well,
did
yeah,
my fair share of being in them. Let me
yeah.
tell you, it's no
Those
easy
things
task.
look very, very heavy and humid, so I'm sure they're not
Oh,
sad the show ended, right?
yeah, that's for sure. I had some geos, get leg cramps, pass out in them. It's like a sauna in there. You get a good workout. You want to lose weight, definitely put on one of those costumes and dance around for 45 minutes in it.
Now, are they playing? Is that a real guitar one of them's playing, or is that like a fake
No,
instrument?
they're
Okay.
fake instruments. Yeah.
Why is one in a wheelchair?
Yes, that's BMAX.
Oh, okay, B Max.
They
Okay.
each they have names. Yeah, it was
Oh,
BMAX,
okay.
Razzles, Pido, BMAX. Yeah, that was just his character. He was in a wheelchair.
In your wildest imagination, when you were, studying dance at the University of Akron, did you ever imagine this?
No, never.
Okay. Okay. Now, what were some of the other shows that you did?
So that was the only main show in the beginning. They kind of wanted to steer away from shows and, do more family events. Like we did Sports Under the Stars, we had trivia nights. And then I think they realized after the first few months that it just wasn't going to pan out and they had to start bringing in shows. One of the managers had mentioned Music Factory, but that was turned down because it wasn't upscale enough. So they had me create a show, and then they had me assigned with just an events manager because at the time it was actually Brian Tramberger was doing sports and events.
Oh,
So
shout
then,
out Brian.
yeah, yep,
Brian, yeah, friend to the pod. Oh, right. So you were there with Brian. Okay.
yep. I was there with him. Also, Scott Duncan. I know you know him. He
Yeah,
was there
Scotty
as well.
B. Wow, you got some talent there, huh?
Oh yeah, he was great. I had the first show they were in it and they helped me out a lot because I had never been to a Club Med, so I was kind of creating a show, blindsided. So they were giving me some tips and showed me some old videos and Scott's great on the scene. Sometimes I would be like, Scott, just be funny. And he would do something funny and it worked in the skit. So it was like a New York show, so it had some Broadway songs and theatrical stuff in it. So I did that. And then we had, the mini club show. So we had something going on every day. And then now coming to my second or third season, they had brought in Fernando, who was a choreographer well known at the time, to help kind of guide me and train me in how to create Club Med shows. And he really gave me the tools to excel at being a choreographer with Club Med.
All right. Now, did any geos do what I used to do? Did they pretend to trip in front of you? Like if they saw you in the disco or pretending they didn't know how to dance, so you wouldn't ask them? Did anyone do that? Or am I just unique like that?
No, we would have to encourage them, but they would skip out on rehearsals and I would have to do a night run to the nightclub and say, hey, you're supposed to be in rehearsal right now, grab them and have them come in and rehearse with us.
Oh, okay. So okay, so you had to go find them sometimes.
Yeah.
Okay. Uh God, I miss not going to rehearsal. Okay. Thing is, I love the shows, but the time of night that rehearsal was usually at, like if you're in a singles village, it was always later, right? So my memory's better in the daytime.
Yes, for sure.
But so I think the choreographers were just content to stick me in the back row by the curtain, and I'd figure it out.
You
what,
figure it
what,
out.
what else can you tell me about your first season?
Yeah, first season, it was just a world kind of win because like I said, it wasn't a normal experience when I got there before the other GOs. And you were asking me about shows, and when the GO team came in, it was 2 weeks before the village opened. So we kind of really got to know each other, have some good team bonding. And there was this one older GO, probably in his 50s then. He was a GO way back in the day, French guy, Michel. And I just remember him going to me, Cara, what kind of shows are you going to create? Back in my day, the men would be on stage and we would be naked and we'd have hats in front of us and behind us. And we go like this and we go like this. And he's like motioning
Yeah,
his hands back and forth. And he goes,
yeah,
the women would go crazy. I'm like, oh my
yeah.
gosh, what am I getting myself into? And then to realize that, yeah, Clement's going another direction of a family-friendly resort, and luckily, not doing any shows like
Women were
that.
going crazy. I think they were just being nice. Okay. Yes. And one guy always forgot to put his hat. Yes. Yes. Okay. Yes. So he was describing the famous hat dance for you, which,
Yes.
yeah, which hasn't happened in quite a long time. So I don't know why you brought that up.
That's how
Okay.
long ago he worked at Club Med when he was
Yeah.
younger in his days.
Believe it or not, there wasn't much choreography for that.
Yeah. It sounded pretty simple, anyone
Yeah.
could do
Yeah.
that for
Oh yeah,
sure.
exactly. You just had to work on. More important was you had to work on your tan, make sure it was even. Okay.
Yep. So we
Oh,
had we had a we had a great team, and a lot of us were pranksters, and the guys like to prank the girls a lot. Whether they were standing on top of the Geo building with water balloons, and they throw it down on the waters when we come back to the Geo building. I don't remember if it was a hurricane or a storm, and there were crabs everywhere in the village. And the guys would take the crabs and hide them in the showers or put them in plastic bags on our doorknobs. Fun stuff like that.
really?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. I didn't know that you were doing pranks in Sandpiper at that time. Okay.
Yeah, it was part of the stints going on, and we had a good team, good bond, like I said, because we got to get to know each other before the village open. And we actually did like a tradition every time a Geo would leave at the end of the season. I was there a year and a half. Geo would hang their sneakers outside of the pipes in front of their doorway, like in the hallway, kind of letting the Geo team they left as a little token.
And because your first season, well, you spent 3 seasons there. So your first season, did you do the first season thing and cry at departures?
Yes, and I
Okay.
realized if I'm gonna be doing this for a while, I gotta toughen up and
That's
not
right.
get so emotional.
But it's nice to see that though. I always like, yeah, I was hardened by year 6, but I always still like to see the first geos, first season geos crying at departure. It always made me smile.
Yeah, yeah,
Nothing wrong with it.
yeah. Later on, looking back at it, you're like, oh, how sweet, and like
Yes.
they'll get used to it.
Yeah.
You get a thick skin.
So overall, you do three seasons. So that's what, a year and a half a year and a half almost at Sandpiper.
Yep, that was a year and a half at Sandpiper Bay.
All right. Now, because you were at a family village, did you request a singles village after? Or that's where they sent you.
No, they actually wanted me to stay there because once Fernando came, they wanted us to create shows together and recruit choreographers and teach them shows to spread to the other villages. But at that point, I was like, I'm ready to get out of Sandpiper and go explore some more. So I actually had an affectation. They offered Japan, but then the CDV didn't want to wait for the visa, so that kind of fell through. And then it was between Turks and Caicos and Cancun. I was actually wanting Cancun just because a lot of the team had gone to Turks. I know most people would want to travel with their friends, but I kind of just wanted to have a fresh start and, go see somewhere else by myself. And they ended up moving the choreographer from Turks and Caicos to Cancun. So then they moved me to Turks and Caicos.
Not a bad village to get sent to.
Oh, for sure not. I'm actually glad it worked out that way. Turks is the most beautiful beach I've ever seen, and what an amazing, magical place that is, for sure.
Well, what were you doing choreographer and Zumba instructor there? What happened there?
Yeah, so I don't know. I think the choreographer before me did that, and the choreographer before that. So it kind of just fell into,
What?
yeah, kind of fell
Seriously?
into place. Yeah, and I actually enjoyed it. It was the highlight of my day. It was, I mean, regardless, even though it was early in the morning, I'm not a morning person. I get up like, oh, I gotta go do Zumba, and walk through the village. And then Zumba was in the theater. So I would stand on stage and the GMs would be standing in the audience. And the moment I got up on that stage, and I don't know if you remember, you could see the beach straight from there. You see that beautiful turquoise ocean. And I got up there and I was like, this is amazing. This is not bad at all. And it became the highlight of my day.
Really? Okay. What was there an aerobics Geo though?
There was, yeah.
Okay.
So she would fill in on my days off teaching Zumba.
Okay. All right. And you also worked with was it so Jenny Lee? So Jenny Lee was there, but she later became as chief of village. Is that right?
Yes, correct. She was the HSM while I was there.
Did she get promoted there,
No, I believe
or
that
no?
was
Okay.
that was later on, yeah.
Okay. All right. So Turks. So what'd you think of Turks after Sandpiper?
Ugh, different lifestyle. I totally got it. When I was in Sandpiper, my second or third season, I had gone to Turks on vacation. And when I got there, I understood the cultural, concept of Club Med and what it truly was like with the energy. And so I was excited to be there. And it is a completely different vibe. Anyone can tell you when they go there, between the Geo team and the GMs that come all the time, you become like family and you feel like you're in your own little bubble in paradise. It was just amazing experience. And I got certified in scuba diving there, and I carry that till this day. One of the best things I did. And I got to learn circus. So I got to train in that, and I continued performing that throughout the rest of my Club Med career. And our chef de village, Vincent, he was great. He was, one of the best leaders. He made the team feel like a family, and we all worked together. The shows, he let me have so much creative freedom. I loved that. He trusted me, and I created so many of my shows there that I was able to bring with me throughout the rest of my Club Med career to the other villages. And it was a fun, we called it our happy place. One of our intro songs before the show was a happy place song, and it kind of became our thing. And we just loved it. And it kind of became like our family. The Geo team was great.
I'm guessing you didn't bring rags to Turks and Caicos.
No, I don't
So
think that
so
would work so
okay.
well there.
So you're allowed to do Music Factory then, I think, at Turks, right?
Yes, of course. That was the highlight, right? All the Geos love that show.
And when you say the Happy Place song, what song is that?
Oh, you put me on the
Is that the
spot.
name? Well, no, is that the name of the song or is
It's the
that
name,
the
I believe it was the name of the song. I can't remember the singer of it.
okay? No, I don't think I've heard it before, but so this is something. So this is the music that would play to get the GMs to the theater.
Yeah, like we always have a few intro songs playing while the GMs were coming into the theater before Geo lineup.
Okay.
So that would be like one of the songs that would always play before
Is
every
it
show.
is it Saint Finks? Is that right? No,
Maybe,
Saints.
I don't know.
Okay.
I'd have
All
to
right.
hear it. I would know it.
Okay. Send it to me later. Okay. I'm
Okay.
curious to hear this. All right. So 2 seasons at Turks. You're there from 2012 to 2013. Any stories or anecdotes come out of this village?
Well, I know one of the famous, Jojo the Dolphin. You always ask about that. I
Yes.
I was super excited. I got to see him because there were a lot of GOs there being like, I never saw him. I was like, I'm gonna see Jojo before I leave. And I got to see him when I was coming back on one of my snorkeling trips. This was before I got scuba certified, and my parents actually came to visit me at the time. So that was pretty cool. And I got to be like, oh, guys, you get to see Jojo the dolphin. He's famous in Turks. And so it was pretty cool. I got some pictures and videos of him. that was a great time. And what else? I got nominated GO of the month. That was pretty exciting. I felt like that was kind of a highlight of my career there.
Okay, hold. Excuse me one second. So they were doing Geo of the a month. Like this was a regular thing.
Yeah, not all chef de villages did it. Some villages did it, and Vincent was one of them who did it. So every month they would vote for GO of the month, and I got voted for it when I was there in, I think it was December 2012.
Do you get anything with that, or did
Oh,
it
you
come
just
with
get a little certificate and a shout out. That's pretty much it.
no drink booklets or actually no, it's open bar now, right? Okay, so okay, so that goes somewhere like a picture on the wall, like type of thing, and
No, they didn't do that.
no,
They just gave us a
okay,
certificate. Yep, that was pretty much it.
okay. Well, that's good because of so much. There's so many. What you're 60 geos, so that's pretty good, right? I mean,
Yeah.
to get
Yeah, I mean,
recognized like that.
yeah, for sure. That made me feel good. At that point, I had created, I think, 3 shows when I was there in like 4 or 5 months.
What are the
Um,
names of the shows you created?
I created, it was a burlesque show, Reflexion, and I actually based that off of a painting. It was a Monet painting, and that was one of my favorites. And then I did a Christmas spectacular, obviously a Christmas show. That was a lot of fun. And then I did a City of Dreams, which was a Broadway type show with singing and dancing. And with the Chef de Village, we created a circus show, Chef de Village, Chief of Circus, Dakota circus show, which was kind of like an Avatar theme show.
In your burlesque show, did you incorporate that old French Geo's hat dance number?
Hey, I thought about it,
Okay.
but
Well, it's
I
it's,
was
it's
trying to be,
Turks, right? Okay.
yes,
Anything
I was,
goes. Okay.
I was trying to be a little bit more upscale.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Understood. You did the right thing. Okay.
Yeah, but it was funny coming from Sandpiper to Turks in the first few weeks. They had little sexy dance numbers, and I was so not used to that. And, that was pretty rough getting used to. But, once you're there, you get in the swing of things. You're like, okay, I can handle this, especially it's so hot. So you're sweating profusively all day long. I remember I was probably taking like up to 3 or 4 showers a day when I was there because it was just nonstop dancing and sweating, and it was hot down there.
Zumbaing.
Yeah, the Zumba rehearsal, show, crazy signs.
Well, after Turks, you go from one hot place to another because in 2013 they go to
Yes.
Bali. So did you request Bali or were you sent there?
I just requested the Asian zone, and
Okay.
my chef de village, he surprised me with Bali. I secretly wanted to go there, but I wasn't specific. I just said Asia.
Okay. And what'd you think?
Oh, I loved it. Bali is amazing. I say till this day, I'd love to go back there to retire. Just the people, the culture, the geography. It's a beautiful place. I took advantage on my everyday off and would do an excursion and go explore and do something. It was a beautiful place. Had a little bit of a rough time adjusting with the culture shock, definitely with all the different nationalities.
Yes, and don't you have like the show when I was in Ria Bintan, but did they have like at least five people translating?
Oh my
Like
gosh,
so the
yes.
shows took a long time to start, right? Because you had to have it
Oh,
in Japanese, Korean, Mandarin. So
yes, yes. I think it took like 25 minutes just to get a show
yes,
started. It's like that's a show
yes,
in itself.
that's right. Okay, okay. Good night, everyone. What? Crazy sign. Now we just go into crazy signs now. Okay.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Translate.
yeah. That's yeah. You have time. Like you could show up a bit late to the show. Like
Yeah, you're
from
like,
dinner.
yeah, I got 20
Okay.
minutes. They're just on French right now. They got
Yeah,
Chinese
that's right.
next.
Yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
so here you're choreographer. You don't have to do Zumba.
No, I did not have to do
Okay.
Zumba.
So you're Chief of Village Pierre Jean Montaigne, and you're with
Mhm.
so Shira Ben Sefer. This was before she was Chief of Village.
Yeah, she
I
was in
think she's
HR at the time.
HR. So HR rep inside the village.
Yes, I think she
Okay.
was VTC if I remember correctly, but I just
What's
remember she was in HR at the time.
what does that stand for?
Village training coordinator.
Oh, okay. So that's for new geos
Yeah.
or okay.
Mhm.
All right. All right. So 6 months in Bali. Do you have any stories from this season?
Yeah, I got some, it's funny story with the rehearsals there. You had mentioned earlier about rehearsals being at night. So actually when I was in Turks, they were trying to get away from rehearsals at nighttime so geos could be in the nightclub.
Yes.
And
Sorry. I waited a long time to hear this. Okay.
so it was a new thing they were trying, and it worked in Turks well. I did two main rehearsals during the day. I scheduled a morning one and
Oh,
an afternoon one, so they can coordinate it around their schedule, but they had to make it to one of the rehearsals. So in Bali, I tried to incorporate that and it didn't work out well, so we had to stick to the nighttime. And my chef de village would cancel rehearsals at nighttime a lot because he wanted everyone in the nightclub. And
what? My God, this
yeah.
man's a god. Let's say his name again. Pierre Jean Montaigne. I love you. Why weren't you working when I was working? Okay. Okay.
So actually, wait, the chef de village was JB then.
Oh, JB. Okay.
Pierre Jean was the LSM. I loved him. He was
Oh,
the
okay.
LSM. Yeah,
Okay. I'm sorry. I'm getting
yeah,
my CDVs and LSM is usually
that's
the
okay.
position right before chief of village, correct? Like
Yeah, yeah,
usually that's leisure services manager
correct. Yeah, and
and then they get promoted, right?
yeah,
Okay.
he's
Sorry.
actually CDV now.
Okay.
Anyways, yeah, so we would go to the nightclub and the CDV would be standing, blocking there was only one way in and one way out because it was kind of on a balcony setting. And some of the geos would want to sneak out, and there was a roof right next to the balcony, like in the backside, and you would sometimes see geos just climbing over a rooftop trying to get down to sneak out. It was the funniest thing you'd see.
Okay. Wait a minute. They're trying to sneak out of going to the disco?
Yeah, because this was later at night. You had to be there till a certain time. I don't know if it was 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. we had to be there till. And
Okay. All
yeah.
right, so it's kind of like pick your poison
Hmm.
rehearsal with Kara, or
Yeah.
or jumping to your death trying to escape the disco.
Pretty much.
Okay.
So that was very entertaining to see. Yeah, it was a good time. Rehearsals. I remember my first day there, part of being in the culture shock with all the different nationalities. There's a lot of uncommon names, and I really made it a habit to try to learn all the geos' names right away. Because I remember from experience, geos would tell me when they didn't appreciate, if the choreographer didn't know their name right away and be like, hey, you over here, or you go over there. So I remember it was my first day in Bali. I was sitting in the audience watching the choreographer that I was going to replace doing her rehearsal on stage, and all the geos were in line. And I was just sitting there and like trying to, memorize the names. And I had the LSM who we were just talking about, Pierre Jean, come over to me. He's looking at me. He's like, what are you doing? I was like, I'm trying to memorize everyone's names, trying to remember them so I have a good relationship. So he was quizzing me and testing me. It was funny, but he was great about it.
You must have
So
had a lot. You must have had a lot of K Toots on that list, though. Then, right? I'm guessing
that's
K Toot. I can't remember if it was every third son or fourth son is named K Toot. I think something
yeah,
like that. Okay.
that's a common Indonesian name. Yeah, there's Nusrath, Rustam, Sunan, Tyson, Aki, and Dario.
Wow, that's pretty good. You still remember.
Yeah,
You're
try.
like you're like the female LP. Do you know who LP is?
No, I
He
don't
was
know.
renowned for memorizing like 40 GM's name in one shot. You would just tell him your name and he'd keep it the whole week, like he
Oh wow, that's great. I wasn't that
okay.
good.
Sounded to me. I mean, this was 2013 and you just spouted it off like you were there sitting in the theater. That's pretty good.
Sometimes it's like riding a bike, it comes back to
Yeah.
you.
All right. What else? What else? What else? What else happened?
What else? I was amazed. The McDonald's there is open 24/7 and they
There's a Mc-
deliver
there's a
24/7.
what? You could get McDonald's delivered to the village?
Yeah, needless to say, I gained some weight that season because of that, those late nights, but that was pretty exciting
Okay,
for
this isn't fair. You're not allowed to be next to a McDonald's where you
uh,
work. How far away like taxi ride was it? Like, just to give me an idea, like from the village to the McDonald's, like how far?
I think it
10
was
minute
like,
car by 10 minute by
no,
car?
maybe like 20 minutes.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, it wasn't that close, but
And it's never
yeah,
cheaper anywhere. McDonald's it always seems to work out the same. Like your rupiahs, like convert seems to be the same amount of the meal that would cost in the States, right? Or was
yes.
it okay? All right.
Yeah.
Give me your go-to meal. What'd you have?
Oh, I'd always get a cheeseburger, chicken nuggets, and fries and a
Oh,
shake.
nice,
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah, when you're not home, it's like you want it more, but when you're home in the States, I never had McDonald's. It's just funny.
Yes,
I
I
I think
got
I had McDonald's the
cravings.
most when I was in China. Yeah, you eat the things that make you feel, gives you comfort.
I had cravings for Pop Tarts when I was in Ria Bintan, and of course when they finally got there, they were just crumbs in a bag, a
Oh
aluminum bag.
no.
But I get it. You get the weirdest craving.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Then so you stay in Asia, right?
Hmm.
Then 2013, 2014, you go to November, you arrive to Yabuli. So this is a village in China. So how long until you got there had the village been open? It's because it's relatively new, right?
Yeah, I think they were open a year or two before I got there, I believe.
That's not bad, right? I mean, a year. It's still a new village, I would say, right?
Yeah, it's still on the newer side. They were just starting to open in China. I think I want to say it was the first village in China.
Okay, as
I could,
because your chief in Turks, Vincent Grandsire, was did he ask you to go with him?
yes, he did. He had reached out to me and he was bringing some of our team from Turks and Caicos to China with him. So he asked me if I had wanted to go. And at that point, I said yes. I was looking forward to working with him again and some of my friends that I worked with before.
But looks like you're doing two jobs again. Now, in Turks, you were doing Zumba instructor and choreographer, but now you're doing choreographer and entertainment manager, right?
Yeah, so I was there for winter season as choreographer, and then for summer season, I was both entertainment manager and choreographer.
Okay, so Yabuli, is this a primarily a ski resort?
Yes, it is a ski resort. They actually had the
Okay.
Olympics there one year. It's right below Russia. It's very,
Oh,
very north of China. Freezing cold, like negative 30 degrees Celsius.
and I can see Russia from my village.
Yeah, pretty
Okay.
much.
All right. Well, well, you'd already been in Asia, but did you have any culture shock in this village?
Oh, I my first scare was the moment I got there. So I got to the airport and you're looking for that person holding the Club Med sign. And I did not see that person. And it was probably a good 30 minutes until I saw someone holding a sign. And let me tell you, I get off, and this isn't a big city. It's not like Beijing or Shanghai. This is, rural China, kind of middle of nowhere. And there's all Chinese. I'm the only white person there. My phone wasn't working. And I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. And then thankfully, I half hour later, someone came with the sign. So didn't speak much English. Kind of, put my faith and trust in him that he was going to get me to where I needed to be. And the moment we got to the village and he parked the car, I saw my friends that I worked with before standing there greeting me. I was so happy. And of course, the moment I got out of the car, I slipped and fell. There was ice. It was very icy. I think that first night I slipped and fell 3 times.
This sounds horrible. I'm sorry. You were in such nice villages and now you're in the winter. Yikes. Okay.
Yeah, and I didn't have any winter clothes being in Bali, right? So, and I had short notice of when I was going there. I luckily, my last day off in Bali, I went to the mall and I got a bunch of warm clothes. And then I had about, I don't know, like 4 or 5 hour notice. Your flight's leaving, and I had to like pack my things and go. It was very chaotic. But yes, it was very cold, but it was refreshing in a sense because it was very hot in Bali and Turks and sweating. So it was kind of refreshing to see snow again.
I'm just wondering. So I'm guessing the GMs were predominantly Chinese that would go to this resort.
Yes, predominantly Chinese. You did have your fair share of Australians and Europeans who are big Club Med people. So, and China was new to the Club Med scene, so they wanted to, check it out. So we did have, it was probably 10%, not Chinese for the GM clientele there.
So imagining that dinner time when you're sitting with the GMs, is it hard to communicate at times?
Yeah, I believe we were allowed to sit with two GOs at the time, and I would sit with a friend who was Chinese who could help translate. So that did make it much easier. But then also, if there were GMs that were not Chinese who spoke English, we were kind of assigned them. So we would always sit with them. And then, yes, you did have your awkward moments where if I was by myself, then, you get good at gesturing.
Yes, lots of sign language, right? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So it's almost as exhausting as talking, I think.
Yeah. But they were good because they were kind of very intrigued with us. It felt like you were a celebrity there. I remember one time on a day off, I was walking down the street in the main city, and it was me, Kevin, he was chief of the circus, Jamaican guy. my costume designer, Narish Death, he's Trinidadian, and then my friend Lorna, she's Canadian, and we're walking down the street and they come a few at a time. They'll come up to you, oh, photo, and can I touch your hair?
Yeah,
It's like, after he left there, I was like, oh, I don't feel famous anymore. And
that's right.
but it was just so weird at first. Like I was at first, we really took a step back, like what is going on? And then you realize it's not common for them, to see different nationalities, in their city. We learned a lot. It's very different there, their their culture with, they can walk down the street and it's common to hear someone hacking a loogie behind you or letting out a big burp. And it's just like, oh, okay, and they're always in a rush. I remember I was at a train station in Harbin and I was with my costume designer Narish, and we were with another Chinese GO, and she was telling us stay close and hold on to each other. And you feel like you're like a sardine packed in, and it's like a free for all. And it's like as soon as that door opened, to get on the train, it's like you literally were like afraid for your life, holding on tight. But that was cool. Speaking of that, the train station we were going to, I don't know if you've heard of the Ice and Snow Festival in Harbin.
No.
It's one of the biggest festivals that they have there. It's hard to explain. You really have to see it to believe it. It's these huge ice sculptures. One is ice sculptures and one is snow sculptures. It's an international festival and it's a competition. They have 18 million visitors and that come in to see this. It's a surreal experience. You kind of feel like and they're lit up at night, the ice sculptures, and you feel like you're in almost like I don't know, like a Wizard of Oz kind of, high buildings, and they have different themes where one's like the Disney castle and you can walk up with steps. They have some with tubing. It was a really amazing experience, although it was freezing cold, -30 degrees Celsius, and they had little huts set up around the festival where you could go in and warm up with heaters, and they would have hot chocolate for you. That was pretty cool.
Sounds amazing.
And I have another story. Unfortunately, I got to go to a hospital and experience that in Yabuli town. I was dealing with actually a stress rash at the time because I was, doing choreographer and events manager at the time. And I had to bring a Chinese GO to translate for me. So we get to the hospital and we were informed that the doctor is not there. And they only have one doctor in this whole hospital. And they tell us he's at a wedding and they give us the address where the doctor is. And so we get back in the taxi and we get to downtown Yabuli and waiting in the taxi in the pouring rain for the doctor to come out from this wedding. Now we're waiting about a half an hour. And while we're waiting, you just hear on the microphone, like loud Mandarin, going on and on and on. And they have these cannons outside and they start shooting off the cannons. I'm thinking to myself, like, where am I? What am I doing? And so the doctor finally comes out running to the taxi cab. My friend translates and he goes, let me see your rash. And like, I show him my rash and he goes, okay, we have to go back to the hospital. I will be back in a moment. And the next thing I know, he goes back into the wedding and we're sitting in the taxi for maybe another hour. And he finally comes in and we get to the hospital. And I will never forget this. As we're walking through the main lobby, there's just like a stretcher going by. And, the person on the stretcher just, coughs up, spits up some blood, and it's on the floor. And it was not cleaned up right away. And I feel like if you're in any other hospital, they would clean it up right away. And I go and see the doctor, and he examines me and gives me a prescription. And we get the prescription right there in the lobby. And as we're leaving, I still see all this blood on the lobby floor. I'm thinking to myself, oh my goodness, get me out of here. So that's definitely an experience I will never forget.
I'll say, yikes. Okay. But you stay in China, like so Dongyao Island has come up before, but I don't think anyone they've interviewed has been at the grand opening, which you were, correct, in 2015?
Yeah, so I had taken a break. So Yabuli, I did winter season, and then there was a few month break before the summer season, and they asked me if I wanted to intern at another village. And at that point, I had been gone from the States for a year, so I was able to go back home. So I went home and did some traveling. And then I went back for summer season, which was a few months. And then I took a break and did some traveling by myself. It was my 30th birthday, so I kind of wanted to celebrate it and crossing some things off the bucket list and meeting up with family and friends throughout Asia and Europe and the UK and back to the States. So when I got back to the States, I had reached out saying I was ready to come back for work. Vincent, who was my chef de village in Turks and Yabuli, was going to Dungao for the grand opening and asked me if I wanted to go there. And actually, at the time, corporate, they wanted me to go to back to Sandpiper as events manager. So it's kind of tossed in between, ended up going back to Dungao as the choreographer for the first season and then events manager the second season.
Okay. And what's it like opening up a village in Asia?
It was a lot of fun. It was also, a little challenging and stressful. Of course, my visa took a little bit, so I didn't get there when I was needed to get the shows up and running. So at the time, they had a dance instructor who had gotten it started for me. I was very thankful for that. So when I got there, the bowl was kind of, getting started with the shows. It was stressful with the theater because the stage was not set up, and I kind of had to help them and direct them. Some things they forgot, as simple as a staircase to the sound cabin. They built a sound cabin with like no way to get up there. My poor
Whoops.
sound tech was afraid of heights, and he's climbing up this, little inky ladder to get up there. The stage was made of podiums. They had LED screens, which I was super excited about because I had a great budget. So we had a lot of nice things. And the LED screen was too close to the back wall. They didn't leave a space enough to be able to walk back and forth from stage left to stage right. So it was, approaching slowly to the grand opening because there was a lot of press coming. The CEO was coming, and it was until the day before I got to do the dress rehearsal on the stage before the opening show. It was awesome. Everyone did great. It was a big fun party. They, had the ribbon cutting. They made a presentation of that. It was outside on the pool and had a clear glass plexiglass across the pool. They were standing on it and released like they had those, what are those Asians kind of it's not a hot air balloon, but like little, I don't remember what they call them, release them in the air. It was really fun. It was nice. It was stressful, but it was great. It was a beautiful village. It was the most beautiful, like practically like a hotel. They had escalators with landscape view windows from floor to ceiling as soon as you walk in the main lobby. So it was fun when we did VV there, Village Village, when we greet the GMs, and that first impression was that big wow factor for sure. So it was a beautiful place.
Speaking of beautiful, looking at a picture of your husband who you met there. He's kind of a good-looking son of a gun, isn't he? He looks like a soap opera actor. It's like you kind of didn't even have a shot or chance when you got there. Like, oh, I'm done. I just met my future husband, right? This is how good looking this guy is, listeners. Okay, I wish you could see this right now. So,
He's
so, so did you fall right immediately or 20 second? Like, how fast? Did you like? This is the one. Tell me.
Well, he wasn't there my first season. He came the second season, and he came like a month or two after the second season started. And at this point, I was the only American GO there. And I had heard he was coming. He wasn't supposed to. I think we were supposed to have a Tunisian chief of sport, and something happened. He didn't come, so it was kind of last minute. And one of my friends, Cindy, who's a GO, she actually works in the recruitment office right now in Montreal. She told me, "Oh, you're gonna have an American chief of sport coming in," and so I kind of heard of him that way. And I must say, the day he arrived was probably the only day I did put on a little mascara and some lipstick. Tried to look a little nice. It wasn't right away, but the connection formed probably a week later. We got to know each other, and it was kind of instant where we both knew. It's timing is everything, and everyone says when you least expect it. That's how it happened.
Yeah, he's from the West Coast. You're from the East Coast, yet you meet in China, right? I mean, how
Yeah,
great is that?
yeah. Everyone loves it when we tell that story. Oh, you met in China. It's like, yep,
Yeah,
only two Americans on this small island.
that's right, right. Okay. That's pretty amazing. And so from Dongao, like how many months, years later, what did you actually get married? Like,
Well, so after that season, I left China, and him and I did a road trip in his little Subaru for about 8 months. We went through the States and
8 months in
Mexico
a
and
Subaru?
Canada. Yeah, and if you can last that long in a little Subaru, I think
Yeah.
you know they're the one.
Yeah, you must have loved him. Okay.
So
Wow. Yeah. So you go through states, Mexico, Canada. So you go to Banff, TO, Quebec City. You go to my place, Montreal. Do you like Montreal?
yeah, we didn't spend much time there. I think we did 2 nights there. It's a beautiful city. Love the architecture. That was a lot of fun. We've met up with Geos along our road trip, so that was pretty cool. And we met our
Oh,
friends and family, and yeah, we went to Quebec City.
oh,
Um,
nice.
yeah, once we finished that road trip, we were kind of like, all right, what's next? And at that time, my friend Cindy, who I had mentioned, was in Sandpiper at the time, and they were looking for a choreographer. It was in the middle of the season, and I had agreed to go back. So then I was there for, I think, 3 months, 3 or 4 months. And knowing that was going to be my last season, my whole family planned a trip there. My parents, my brother, my sister-in-law, my nephews, and my grandma came. So AJ was working in Alabama at the time he got a job. So he came when they were there and he proposed while I was working in Sandpiper Bay. So that was in 2017. And after that, we got married in 2018.
Okay. So he proposed at Sandpiper?
Yeah, it was pretty nice, especially having my family there. So Sandpiper has a little special place in our heart. When they were closing it, we were devastated, and we actually planned a trip there right before they closed. Was that last year? Yeah, it was last year. Because my son, we had a baby, and we wanted him to experience at least one special village to us, and doubtful we would make it back to Dengao Island in China. So we were living in Atlanta. No, we were living in Charleston at the time. So we drove down to Florida for 2 or 3 nights. And I'm telling you, our son, he's going to be a GO. He's a natural. He says hi to everybody. He was up doing crazy signs. All the GOs and GMs were amazed. He was up at the nightclub after the show doing crazy signs. It was nice to share that with him and get to go back to Sandpiper one last time.
Well, yeah, it's also a kind of a full circle moment. I mean,
For
that's
sure.
where you started and that's where you ended your time at Clemet, correct?
Yeah, it was very nice coming back full circle.
Wow. Well, this is amazing. What a story. Now, in your time in all your seasons, was there anyone that you clicked with? Anyone, there geos you liked working?
Oh, of course. I mean, as the choreographer, I mean, that's the perk. You get to work with everybody and anybody. So you get to know a lot of the geos very well. It would be hard for me to, name all of them and specific ones. I guess I'll have to name a few that were, stood out to me that made some good impressions. I guess I'll go in order with first season. Definitely have to give Scotty D and Brian Tramberger. They were kind of like my older brothers, guiding me through the whole Club Med experience and what it would be like. Fernando, he gave me the tools I needed to be a good, great Club Med choreographer. My career probably took off because of him. My chef de village that was there, Lionel Perrot, I remember he brought me in his office probably a week before I went to Turks, and he's like, Cara, you need to have confidence when you go into Turks. And I just remember watching him, and he stood in his office and he was walking back and forth. You need to walk like this and put your shoulders back and walk in like you own the place. And I'll never forget that. He definitely gave me the confidence I needed to rock Turks and Caicos when I went there. My chef de village in Turks, Vincent, I have a lot of respect for him as a person and a boss. He treated the staff like family. He was a great role model, gave me the support I needed, had faith in me to do a good job and giving me my creative freedom and trusted me. My friend Fabien Davissat, tall Frenchman, his wife, Kelsey Lim, the two of them, they were great. They both inspired me to be a better GO, and they were a good friend of mine. And you have so many special people. My costume designer Narish Maraj, he was actually my man of honor at my wedding. We made a good team. We did a lot of shows together. My friend Cindy Albert, Kelsey Roberts, Damien LeBlanc, he was my sound tech. We worked together for many seasons. Lorna, Lala, Bahab Zero, my wonderful husband, AJ. The list goes on. You just make so many great relationships. There's this one GO, he's a chef de village now, Zach Lee. He started when I was in Dengao. He was a boutique GO. And just recently, when he was promoted to chef de village, our friend Rio Latoure, he was a mini club manager. He wrote me to let me know because he's in the village at the time saying, oh, Zach got Chef de village, he gave a thank you speech, and I wanted to let you know he gave you a shout out, you and I a shout out, saying he remembers that conversation we had with him that night in the bar, inspiring him and motivating him to continue to go down, the path to be a chef de village. And I mean, I don't remember that exact conversation, but stories like that really touch my heart to know that you can have a big impact like that on someone's life. And, that's a great feeling.
Yeah, that's nice. That's amazing. Now, well, you mentioned you went back to Sandpiper, but besides not doing dishes, is there things that you miss about Club Med? I'm sure
Doing
dishes are up there. A lot of people
cooking. Yeah.
mention. Okay, yeah,
Yeah, it'd be like not
yeah.
cooking, having
First,
meals ready.
yeah. Do you miss buffets like I do? Okay.
Definitely. There's so many things I miss, the lifestyle, just the village lifestyle. There's always people around, there's always something to do. Definitely not having to drive and cook is a perk. Meeting people from all over the world, different cultures and that share the same passion for life and travel. And obviously, mostly the shows. I miss creating the shows. I miss the rehearsals and seeing your vision, your dreams coming to life, and having the GOs work hard for something that's not their primary duty and giving it their all and forming that special bond with them. The adrenaline rush when you're performing on stage. I always say my favorite part was always hearing the audience reaction. Whenever I watch videos and you hear the audience laugh or go, "Whoa!" It's like I love that feeling. I love that sound. That makes me feel like I did a good job getting a reaction out of them. Being announced, hearing your name, Cara Giacalone, choreographer. And I would always run down the line and high five all the GOs. I really wanted them to show that I appreciated them and all their hard work that they gave me, throughout rehearsals and the seasons. So yeah, I missed a lot. Club Med was amazing. It's a great experience.
You ever been in the grocery store or the bank and the song from Club Med comes on and you have to physically restrain yourself from dancing? Does this
Oh
happen to
yeah.
you?
Oh yes, all
Or
the
in the
time. Even in the
or
car.
yeah,
It
the
was
car, yeah.
it was fun at our wedding. Of course, we had a bunch of GOs there, and everyone with my family and friends in general love to dance, So it was a great party, and the GOs, whenever if a crazy sign came on, we would all start doing it, and everyone would follow along. And I always think of Hands Up. That was like one of the main ones because it was like easy to go along to, and it's yeah, that's the crazy signs.
God, so you had a lot of XGOs at your wedding?
Yeah, we had a good
That
group there.
that must
Yeah.
have been like one marathon crazy sign sesh that you had at your
You
at
know,
your
it's
wedding. No?
yeah, so it's funny because I had a live band and they ask you if you have any specific song requests. Now, me being, of course, an entertainment manager, I was like, okay, I want it in this order. And I listed the order of the songs, and I had Danza Kujo on there, and they're like, we usually don't play that till the end. I said, no, 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 you don't understand this crowd. As soon as the party starts, we're going to be ready to dance. We're not like easing into this, slow songs into upbeat songs. We're starting strong. And they were like, they loved it. The bands, they were like, get on the dance floor with us. So we had a saxophone player, and it was fun. It was a really good time.
Wow, that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
So you actually wanted to see their set list before they started? Is that what you're saying?
No, they just asked if you have any special requests, like
Oh, okay.
songs. So usually you would name a few songs, but me, I said I want it in this order, and I put one, two, three.
Trying to tell a story here. Okay. Okay, so we're coming near the end of our time. I just want to make sure, like, is there anything that I forgot to ask you, or is there another story that we missed you wanted to say?
Yeah, just thinking back to, the impression that we make as GOs with GMs, my first year and a half at Sandpiper, going into the Club Med culture and the concept of it, how different it is from the everyday norm. It's hard for someone to get into the swing of things where you're constantly busy and, doing five things at once. I remember it was a culture shock, even for my family and friends, where they're like, we hardly hear from you. And until my family came to visit, they understood how busy you are. But I would have to say what really helped me adapt to the GO concept of GM interaction was teaching the kids dance class. I was never a kid person. And when they assigned me teaching kids dance class, I thought, oh my gosh, how am I going to do this? How am I going to get through it? And I had some GOs that were in the mini club team, and they were great and helped me relax a little bit. And it turned out to be my favorite part of being at Sandpiper. let me be loose and be a kid myself. And you almost feel like, a celebrity when the kids would come running up to you during the day. Oh, Miss Cara. And, when you're performing on the show, they would make me signs. And what was really self-rewarding were their parents complimenting me after I would do the mini club show, and they would say, how did you teach them all this in 1 week? They go to dance school for a year and they don't even learn this much. And, still to this day, I keep in touch with some of the kids' parents. It's nice to see them, grown up now and where they're at in life, and kind of form that, special bond with Club Med as a GO with your GM contact, the impression you make on them.
Oh, that's amazing. Great
Yeah.
story.
Yeah.
And looking back, you don't seem to me to be someone who has regrets. So are you glad that, your parents knew Greg Snyder, that he met, you met him and he told you about Club Med. So you're happy you did it, right? Like
Oh.
you're glad you got the experience, right?
Oh, most definitely. If I had a regret, it's that I didn't find out about it sooner. And I
Yeah,
would have, and I
that's
would
what
have
I always
started.
say. Yeah.
I wish I would have started when I was younger, right out of college. And when I was at Club Med, if I was talking to families or kids, I would say I highly recommend doing Club Med right after college. You're not going to get your dream job, and it's going to be a great experience. I started when I was 26 years old, and I still wish I was younger when I did it, had a longer career, but it was a great run I had. I miss it a lot. It was definitely one of the best decisions I ever made.
Yeah, and even in between your villages, like you travel 8 months, through Asia and Europe, and then 8 month road trip. So you really got your travel in. That's for sure, right?
Yes, yes, I made the most of it. I'm exhausted, let me tell you that. It was a lot, traveling around with one suitcase, and got married, and now we're bouncing around the Southeast. And I was afraid when I left Club Med that, I wouldn't be able to sit still, but we're finally sitting still for now. So it's kind of nice to get in a little routine. But I do get that travel bug and, try to make trips happen.
And do people call you KJ now?
It's
No?
still weird for me
Okay.
having
Okay.
that as my last name.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story with us. It was very kind of you.
Yes, thanks so much, Greg, for having me. It was a lot of fun going down memory lane, and it was a great trip. I appreciate being on here. Thank you.
Can you just say again the way Lionel Perrot pronounced your name?
Cara.
Cara. Okay, that's definitely unique. Okay. Everyone, that was Cara Giacalone. And thank you once again. And everyone, we'll see you all next week with a new episode of my first season. Here's where we say goodbye to everyone for listening.
Bye. Thank you. Ciao,
Bye.
ciao.
Bye, everybody. See you all next week. Bye.